So I hit the buttons backwards, but that's okay because we're still going to get there and it's still going to work. And so I got everything clicking along. Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. And for those who don't know, I'm Teddy. The other dude with the uber shiny top of his head is my co-host and partner and friend, Mr. Randy Wooden. We'll tell you in a moment about Connie and Travis, but before we get started, we need to absolutely be grateful and thank our sponsors for everything they do for us. The show is sponsored by Blackwell Captive Solutions. Is your healthcare plan, if you're self-insured for your healthcare for your employees, is your plan the best it can be? Is it set up to give you what you need to cover the spend that you should be spending? Is there transparency there? Blackwell Captive Solutions helps you equalize the playing field so your cost is not based on what the insurance companies want, but rather on what you need to make sure that your healthcare is provided to your employees. Blackwell Captive Solutions, blackwellcaptive.com. Again, they're good people. And if you're self-insured for your business, I recommend you reach out to them and have a conversation with them. Boom.
There you
Randy,
go.
you doing all right?
I am. And we are up and running on Facebook and LinkedIn. So we are reaching all ends of the universe with that.
So again, for those who don't know who I am, we have 10,000 people on the show right now. I'm Teddy. I work for a company called Burris Consulting. We're LinkedIn strategists, trainers, and coaches. We help people use LinkedIn as a business tool. I do it through one-on-one coaching, corporate training, public speaking. Heck, Randy and some of our audience knows, I don't know that Connie and Travis have ever heard this, I will stand on a street corner and proselytize about LinkedIn. Randy, would you introduce yourself to our audience, please?
I hope you bring your umbrella today, Teddy, if you're going to do that. It's going to get a little wet out there. Hey, folks, Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina. I'm director for our professional center based here in Winston. We love to help job hunters. That's what Goodwill does. And we help them do a better job of the job hunt. We help upskill folks that might want to learn a new trade and that kind of a thing. Just so happens the program I run deals with professionals, very much like the folks on this call, and try to help them get to that next step, whatever that might be. So we're free, happy to help. We work by appointment and have clients all across the country, but most are here right here in the Triad. And again, every Wednesday, Teddy and I get together. Is this show, what'd you say, 167?
167, Randy. That doesn't include the 5 before that where we were thinking about it.
Okay. So there's a bunch of them. We've lasted longer than a lot of marriages have, Teddy. So I just hats off to you for
and you too, buddy. I mean, you've been taking a heck of a beating.
I still haven't gotten a pay raise. In fact, I still haven't gotten any money at all. But, hope springs eternal, and maybe one day you'll come around to see things my way. But every week we get together. So as always, we learn new stuff, and today's no exception. But I want to remind you, if you have comments or questions for our guest today, then put them in the chat area, and I'll keep an eye on that. And if appropriate, I'll try to work some of that in to our discussion today. So, Teddy, fire off. Let's go.
All right, man. Let's make this happen because this is going to be an interesting conversation. And I guarantee you that our special guest can help change the way people think about the topic at hand. So we have Connie Chesner. I've known Connie for 10 or 15 years. We have Mr. Travis Cook. They're business partners in a business. I was saying the name wrong before, but it's Armored Self-Defense is the primary business that they, and there's other arms of the business where they help people in that context. But the context that we're going to use today is a little bit more than just simply self-defense. But before we get started, Connie, Travis, would you help me and introduce yourself to our audience a little better than I could, please?
Absolutely. You want to go first?
Sure. So my name is Travis Cook. This is Connie Chesner, co-founders of Armored Self-Defense. We've been doing armored training with people and companies and individuals and consumers for almost a decade now, really helping to shape and mold people into a better existence of themselves and to really make better selves altogether.
So Travis is not going to say it, but I'm going to say it for him. His background is quite extensive in all things self-defense and all things understanding how to work with different people through learning styles, through advancing them in different places and such. So the way that we combine our backgrounds, Teddy, you know this, but people listening probably don't know it about me. I have a really deep background in psychology and communication and marketing. And so we take those two different areas there and we blend them into all of the experiences that we offer. So I've been in industry for 25 years or so. Travis in his respective industry has been in his industry about that long too. So we bring a lot of different experiences to the table, and we're just trying to make the world a better place.
Good deal. Hey, you know what, you guys, I mean, we're going to learn a lot today. And before we get too deep into the actual conversation, I'm always curious. So, this one's coming. I always ask the why question. What is it that drove this passion to devote an entire career to this study? Was it a single event, maybe a series of events? Help us understand your why.
I mean, I could talk for myself and say that, I mean, I started training Taekwondo and self-defense and things very, very long time ago when I was a youth, about 10 or 11 years old. And even from a young age, my instructor had me helping out with the other students on the floor and kind of started essentially grooming me into being able to interact and be an instructor from a very young age. And from a young age, I knew what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure how I wanted to do it, but the idea of taking the knowledge that I have in order to help other people and being able to translate that to them in different ways, because people have different learning styles and different ways that they absorb information. So being able to translate my knowledge into a multitude of different avenues of trying to give that knowledge to other people was also very fascinating to me, but also is something that I'm extremely passionate about. Everything that I've accomplished has been because of a lot of the development from discipline and focus and confidence and resiliency and all the different components that go into being successful in life. I like to help others realize that within themselves. So really just helping people overall is really just the passion behind it. It's always been something I've been interested in.
Yeah. Connie, what about you?
So my background's a little less linear than Travis's. I tell people that if you look at my career background, it kind of looks like an angry bumblebee, but it's a happy bumblebee in terms of going from flower to flower and things. So, like bumblebees kind of go and go all around, and they're looking for different places to pollinate and make the world, what they need. So my background started out with a passion for teaching. And that passion for teaching has translated into many different forms throughout my career. This is, I would say, my second full career. So I had a full career in marketing, communications, market research, corporate stuff type things.
Yeah.
And I believe now that's where we met, Randy, because I sat on some different boards for Goodwill and things like that. It's like, now I remember it. So that actually led me into, at one point in my personal journey, I wound up at a women's self-defense seminar, believe it or not, at just a local school. And I fell in love with the idea of what self-defense training did for me in one session. And then when I signed up for it, I became a wee bit obsessed. I had some time on my hands. I had a lot of flexibility. I was running my own organizations at the time. So I wound up falling in love with it, and then seeing and saying, I want other people to have this. I want them to understand the power of what we're talking about today, the idea of the armored mindset. We didn't call it that at the time, but this is what we've developed it into, and those types of things. So impacting people in a positive way, that's really what impacts us and drives us forward.
Gotcha. Good stuff. Teddy, what you got, man?
Good. And I've shared the website and Facebook and Google Maps, and I'll share the email address, phone number, and the academy address, which is off of Jonestown Road. I'll share that with everybody in a few minutes as well. So, armored mindset. This is the core of what you're all about, and so help me understand, how does learning self-defense and how to take somebody down or protect yourself, how does that build, or what is that in the context? What is armored mindset?
So the armored mindset is based in the idea of building a resiliency inside of yourself, in addition to having those exterior tools. So when we think of self-defense, if you think about what you're going to see in the media most of the time, people talk about self-defense and they show someone just elbowing someone in the face or hitting them. Yes, physical skills are an essential part of self-defense, but really a lot of self-defense is a mental game. And we cannot escape ourselves. As much as we'd like to escape ourselves, we are going to be speaking to ourselves 24/7 for the rest of our lives. Even when you're asleep, your dreams are, doing different things in terms of organizing things in your brain and such. So the idea of the armored mindset is to build a resiliency and build more mental fortitude in addition to having the self-defense skills that we tend to think about. So we're talking about that psychological in addition to the physical things that we can learn in terms of self-defense. So it's more than just kicking, punching, everybody likes to talk about kick him in the groin. Okay, well, that's great. Now, what does it mean in terms of the armored mindset? Maybe you want some armor there before I kicked you in the groin, but at the same time, different analogy there, but the armored mindset is something that will allow you to push through when there are things that are tougher. So we work on that on a regular basis in terms of understanding how do you push past when your brain at first says, nah, I'm done. How do you say one more? How do you say 10 seconds more? When it's appropriate, when it's something that you really need to push through, because that's the key. I mean, we all know, we're all adults here. We know that there's a lot of stuff in life that you don't want to do every single day. And you do it because you're a mature, responsible person. How do you push past those procrastination points? And how do you push past different things and have that mindset that lets you continue to grow and move forward? And Travis might have some more to kind of expound on there.
I mean, really, she did a great job summing it up. And also it's not just within the realm of self-defense. I mean, the armored mindset takes you further in life. If you want to be an executive within a company, if you want to be a business owner, if you want to be all of these different things, whether a surgeon or a psychologist or whatever you want to be, why not be great at it, number one? And you're definitely going to come up against some trials and tribulations along the way. So you better have a strong mindset to be able to push past those hard times. Hard times are going to come to everybody in one form or another. If you don't have the mental fortitude to push past it, be it in self-defense or in life or in your business or whatever, you're going to falter and fail, and you're not going to know why in a lot of cases. So understanding that developing an armored mindset within the realm of self-defense allows you to translate that into other areas of your life is a very powerful thing in a lot of ways.
So one of the things I'm picking up here is that the mindset, you see Bruce Lee movies or whatever,
Yeah.
and
super fun, by the way. Super
who's
fun.
the other guy? Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, yeah.
And
But
for
let's
a lot
never
of
forget
people,
Chuck Norris, man. Don't forget him. He's gonna come after us
He'll
then.
come after you.
Yeah, we all know the Chuck Norris jokes.
yeah. But what I'm taking away from this thing just at the outset is, especially when you get old people like Teddy and me, and we're getting a little slow in the joints, and we may not be able to do the things that Bruce Lee could do. Even when we were 30 years younger, we couldn't do the things that. But the idea here is that you don't have to be Bruce Lee. You don't have to be able to knock a guy out with a pinky.
Nope.
This is a mindset thing. So regardless of your health, I think this is an important topic. And I think that's what you're trying to emphasize here. Is it's as much between your ears as it is with your hands and your feet and your knees and all those things. So
there's as much physical benefit as there is mental benefit.
Yeah.
People come in all various sizes and shapes. People come in with all different backgrounds, whether they've been through trauma or seen trauma or never experienced it, but don't want to experience it. I mean, it's literally the gauntlet of anybody and everybody. That's
good stuff. So this is for everybody. So
correct. I mean, we've got 14-year-olds all the way up to one of our students. She just turned 81 this week.
Yep.
I mean, she's not running around the room doing everything physically like some of the teenagers, but she's doing it at her ability level and understanding that she is going to get better from where she is, regardless of where she started.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a term called fight or flight. And I think that and we might talk about this later on, I think having an armored mindset is going to help me make a decision about when do I fight or flight.
Correct.
Yes.
In lots of areas, which we'll work on a little bit more. Let's take that. I want to take that a little further, and then in a moment we'll talk about that other thing called Krav Maga, which totally freaks me out. But why does it matter? How does having an armored mindset really impact our lives and our businesses? And I think I'm working on some ideas, but play with that for me, would you please?
So let's start with the thing that you can't escape, which is your personal life. So your business life may change several times over a career. Okay, so let's start with the thing that's going to stick with you. In terms of an armored mindset in your personal life, in your day-to-day, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to have a different perspective on the world when you have an armored mindset. Something happens in the morning. Let's say it's something small. You're commuting or you're driving somewhere. You're going to get your morning cup of coffee because you like to go to your favorite coffee shop, whatever that happens to be. And somebody cuts you off in traffic and such. For some folks that are just kind of going through their day and are not really connected, they're gonna let that throw them off. They're going to let that change their energy for perhaps hours after it. They're going to tell the story over and over again. Oh man, this guy or gal, this thing happened to me. That's going to become their focus point. With an armored mindset, let's say that same thing happens to you. You see it, you may give that person a little bit of grace in your mind. Yeah, it's annoying. Don't get me wrong. You don't want to ever get in a car wreck and we don't want to be in danger. But at the same time, you put it in perspective and say, that was but 5 to 10 seconds of my entire day. Let's go ahead and put that where it needs to be and let's move forward. So in your personal life, you wind up finding yourself more at peace. So, Randy mentioned, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris and some of the big, huge names that are out there. When you look at, if you ever get a chance, look at their backgrounds and what they've gone through in life. They did not have easy lives, Bruce Lee not with us and Chuck Norris still, but the way that they made it through was all about that mindset. So when you translate that now over to the business world, and you say, I don't know who after the pandemic has not had more stress in their life than they did before the world kind of shifted on axis. And I think part of that stress has to do with all the change that's happening on all the layers. Okay, no one's trying to create, I don't think there's a mastermind out there right now, at least, but I don't think there's many that are out there trying to cause others issues, just, poking at the bear. However, in business, we wind up with all sorts of things. Look at the big conflicts that are happening right now at the macro level. Do we work remotely? Do we work in person? Who has to come in? When do they have to come in? Can I get a job? Can I not get a job? Rent rates are going up. Housing things are going up. Are you paying me enough? You're not keeping up with inflation in terms of things. Those are lots of stressors that come at you every single day. I don't care what your industry is.
Yeah.
If you're going to focus there, that focus there on those types of things is going to really work against the ability for you to look at that, put it in perspective, and focus on the things that matter that you can impact on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I think too, the idea of learning how to deal with stress in a very controlled environment. Can you
Get
hear
it
me?
a little closer to the mic.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the idea of dealing with stress within a controlled environment and learning how to manage and mitigate that on a daily basis, not only mentally, but physically having an outlet for that stress is something that a lot of people are not in tune with the realities of their world. They don't have an outlet, be it, lifting or running or whatever else it may be. It may be something else entirely that's different, fine. But you don't have an outlet for the physical stress. Well, then you're also not getting an outlet for understanding how to mentally deal with the stress of the day-to-day things because you're not training that. And understanding how to train and mitigate that stress level and everything within a very controlled environment, again, allows you to take that and apply that to an outside realm in your regular life, be it in business or your personal life or whatever. It allows you to mitigate stressors and risk and things in a very logical way, as opposed to letting the emotional side take over and being very erratic and being upset and all of the things that can cause even worse stress reactions and hormones to come out in your body.
Yeah. When we first started talking about the armored mindset, I shared with this whole idea of fight or flight. Usually we think fight or flight. We think about that in a physical environment. Do I take on this old man who's bothering me? Am I willing to have a fight with what's the movie I watched last night? It was
I don't know what movies you watch, Teddy. What do you watch?
It was about a 90-year-old guy who became a drug mule. I can't remember the name of it. It was called The Mule.
The Mule. Yeah.
Clint Eastwood.
Yep.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood playing a 90-year-old role. Maybe he's close to that, but there were scenes where he was willing to take on a fight with Brutus, and then he all of a sudden his mindset. He walked away and he played the role of a grumpy old man, didn't know what he's doing, and he was able to walk away. Now, that's how we think of fight or flight. But as you're talking, I'm thinking fight or flight in life and business. Fight or flight in business. Should I keep plowing forward
Yes.
in trying to make this business work.
Mhm.
And maybe it's the right thing to do and I should do it differently. Or should I admit to myself that this is not the journey I should take in my business and make an adjustment, make a pivot? And I do this all the time in lots of areas in business. I make a decision, keep going. And if I am going to keep going, give it 110%.
Correct.
Yes.
If I'm not, stop.
Right. And a lot of people, talking about fight or flight, they think about fight or flight with just those two binary options. Well, really, there's a third option that most people don't consider, and that's freezing, which, especially in business, being frozen or, paralysis of analysis or analysis paralysis, however you say it, is something that a lot of people suffer from. And understanding that, yes, fight or flight is real, but you can also get frozen in the moment and end up doing nothing. And oftentimes doing nothing is worse than making a decision one way or the other, rather than, freezing in place and not doing anything. Okay, these are my decisions. Which is logically my best assessment of this situation? Which decision do I go with? And again, you're right. It's not just within the physical realm of self-defense. It's with regards to a lot of decisions in life, and understanding that, yes, sometimes you're going to make the wrong decision, but it's better than making no decision and having no action.
Yeah.
Are there, just out of curiosity, and maybe you're going to touch on this, Teddy, can you walk us through some of, without revealing all of what you do for free, but I mean, it sounds great. Okay, I need to develop this armored mindset. What are some steps that you take, or what are some things that you walk your clients through to help them develop that mindset?
Well, number one, we understand that everybody comes in where you are, right? You are who you are where you are physically or mentally or whatever. You coming in and wanting to grow and wanting to get better, that's the first step. You have to want to get better, number one. When you're coming in, you're also going to be doing a lot of physically challenging things. Physical challenges also beget mental challenges of pushing through those physicalities. And mentally, you're starting to develop that resiliency by doing physical endeavors. And so by allowing yourself to accomplish these physical endeavors, mentally pushing through them, when your body says no, your brain has to say, yes, I can do this. I can make this happen. That's one of the pieces as you're starting to develop a bit of mental resiliency, and also dealing with stress and doing all kinds of it really, a lot of the physicality of the actions tie into the mental development, but there's also a lot of mental development from the pieces of the knowledge domains or some of the other training methodologies that we go through that are very militaristic in nature, but they're extremely good for benefits as far as development of the mind. So understanding that sometimes physically you may not have to go through it full power and full speed, but you have to understand, take it back a step, understand the mechanics a little bit better so that your body can react and understand how to do it with more power later. So sometimes even mentally taking a step back and saying, okay, hold on, I thought I had this. Maybe I don't. Maybe I need to come back and revisit this. That's another part of, mental resiliency, and also self-accountability. Maybe I'm not always going to do it the right way. Maybe I do have to take a step back, analyze how I'm doing this, make it better, and then move forward again. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And because a lot of times, you hop on Facebook or whatever, and there's 10 million guys out there telling you how to lose weight, how to live to be 180, how to be a rocket scientist. And I haven't found the solution yet, but, they all make it seem so logical and so easy. But of course, then there's, okay, well, how are you going to get from here to there?
Well,
and trying to walk us through how you engage with people, I think, can put some meat on the bones for people to say, okay, this is more than just, okay, well, just make your mind say to do it.
There's no magic pill.
Yeah, here's some concrete steps that you walk people through so they see that this stuff is real, and they can see how it impacts not just perhaps themselves, but maybe you've got others that you've worked with who say, man, these guys rock. And if it weren't for them, I'd still be stuck, doing whatever. So good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. I was very purposeful at the lake, Randy. I had a 300-yard walk from the dock to the house.
Okay. Yeah.
Now I could have taken a cooler full of my favorite beverage down there and just sat down there, but I didn't do that. Travis, you'd be proud of me, man. I didn't take more than 2 at a time. Which means
you made the walk each time.
I had to walk up that hill. It was uphill and back down,
Jeez.
No, I think that's the kind of idea that's floating around in my feeble mind as we chat about this. I'm being facetious with it, but I get it. I absolutely get it. Don't buy a treadmill unless you're planning on using that treadmill. And the only reason you use that treadmill is not to make someone else happy. It better be to make yourself happy. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So one of the things that I want to make sure is, we kind of add to the discussion that we have going on right now is the idea of, Randy's asking, what's the magic formula, essentially? He's like, what do you got? Give me the steps, or give me an idea what the steps look like. And really the answer is kind of boring, but it's a reality about how we learn as human beings. And one of the things that happens, and we bump into this all the time in our adult classes, is adults have become very good at forgetting how hard it is to learn a new thing. So they come in and they come on their first night and they want to be Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, and they remember their body from 15 years ago. And you have all these different things that are happening. And one of the things that we do with them, you're asking about the tools that we use, is we break things back into incremental steps. So when you give people moments of success and achievement, they're more likely to reach bigger goals when you break them back into smaller things. So on the floor every night, we're breaking things back. There's a very strategic way in which everything is taught, where it's broken into very easy to understand steps that covers various learning styles. And if you think about translating that into a business world, you can do the same thing with your staff and your teams. Understand who you're talking to, understand how to translate it, and don't give them just the big chunk. And now you've got a goal way up here that we can't all, we're like, wow, we're never going to get there. Break it down into smaller steps and literally celebrate mini celebrations, not huge celebrations, but mini celebrations at each win. So, something goes right, give a compliment, and then give a way to improve it more the next time. So that went right. Something goes wrong. Okay, find a way to say, all right, we've got some things that we can work on here, and be very careful in how you phrase that. Those are things that move people forward. So that's that communication we were talking about earlier. I wanted to make sure we kind of talk about that.
Got it.
And I'll just throw it in here. This whole show started a few years ago when the COVID hit, and helping job hunters, resume, interview skills, that kind of thing. And I compare what you just said, Connie, a bit to the job hunt, and how we can take not solace, but solace, but comfort, whatever, in those incremental steps. The job hunt can be daunting. And if we look at it as, wow, it's out there. When am I going to get there? How am I going to get there? What's that going to look like? We can take it in incremental steps, whether it's, making new contacts, it's applying for work, it's having conversations with other folks. And we can break it down into bite-sized chunks and see that we're making progress. And I think that helps keep us engaged, enthused, and not give up, because we're seeing progress, right?
And it gives you a realistic view of how to get there, right? Like you were just saying, like you can see the end, but maybe you can't see how to get there. Well, okay, let's break it back into steps. You know what the end goal is. Where do I need to start? And now how do I fill in the middle? And you may not be exactly right on every single step along the way. It may be a step left when you went right. Okay, again, come back, reassess. Okay, now we got to go left. Let's see how that goes. And so it's a constant up and down. It's not a direct linear path, right? Like, the idea of learning is not something that, I started learning, it's just going to exponentially get better over time. Well, no, the more in depth you get about something, the more you realize, the more you don't know. And understanding and realizing that is honestly a real path to understanding at a deeper level. I've been doing this, 30 years of my life now, working with different people across different regions, and literally thousands of people. I am still challenged every single day when somebody new comes in, or when I've got a student that I've been working with for years, and all of a sudden they come across something that they don't quite understand. Okay, well, now I got to figure out how to get them to understand this information too, but I can't just give it to them in one huge chunk. Okay, now how do I break it back for them so that they can understand that, yes, the elephant looks daunting, but how do you eat it? One bite at a time. You can't think about taking on the whole thing in one chunk.
Yeah. Teddy, we're getting close to halfway, but I just also want to, if not now, then maybe later, tie this into, do you do coaching with corporations and helping? We'll get there. So that's something to keep for later, and throw it back to you, Teddy.
Yeah. And so, by the way, I'm still remembering, as Randy's checking Q&A and chat, and right before we go commercial break, I'm still remembering what you said earlier. I'm not going to use your word. I'm going to use the word that you thought about using instead. Life is way better when you're a happy bumblebee. And the same thing with growing our armored mindset. The same thing with developing and learning. If someone says you're here, go directly to here, that would be the most boring journey ever.
Yep.
Bounce all over the place.
Yep.
Well, and what makes life interesting is the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you knew everything and, you know, were predicting everything that was going to happen, yeah, it'd be great because maybe you can avoid some bad stuff. But how boring would that be? Right? That's not life. That's not how it can work. And you have to be kind of accepting of that in order to be successful and realize that, well, sometimes the world's going to go to haywire and you can't control it. Now, how do we adjust? How do we adapt? You know, that's that armored mindset, not letting that just sit and wallow and woe is me. No, how do we fix it? How do we move on? How do we make this better?
Cool.
Mhm.
Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. I'm Teddy, my cohort in crime, my buddy Randy Wooden. Our special guests today are Connie Chesner and Travis Cook. And our show is sponsored by Blackwell Captive Solutions. Randy and I have known Carrie and her team for many years now. They got 25 years experience in health insurance benefits. So if your organization is self-insured, specifically in the context of health insurance for your employees, have a conversation with Blackwell Captive Solutions. They have a medical stop loss captive program. It's pretty easy to implement and it creates a shock absorber to help against those high dollar claims. BlackwellCaptive.com, and if you do have a conversation with them, tell them that Teddy Burris suggested that you talk. So cool. Let's keep going. Actually, Connie, I wrote down crazy happy bumblebee, but I dropped the word crazy because I thought that was not, you know, it would be relevant to me, not you. So all right, let's talk about this thing that I've learned about recently, which and I'm just, you know, I'm gonna lay it out and let Travis or Connie tell us what is Krav Maga. It's a form of self-defense. It's not martial arts specifically. It's not Taekwondo, and I doubt Bruce Lee studied it. Neither did the dude who taught Bruce Lee, who is not Ip Man, it's some other dude. What is Krav Maga and why? What's it all about?
So Krav originally started as a self-defense combatives course for the Israeli military. The Israeli military it's comprised of the 18-year-olds that are coming out of high school or 19-year-olds coming out of high school. They have to do 2 or 3 years military service, depending on who. I think it's males have to do 3 years and women have to do 2 years, if I remember right. But everybody coming through has to be able to utilize these combatives and these striking techniques and all the different things. So Krav Maga literally translated as contact combat. So understanding how to use your body in order to inflict damage on the other person. And with regards to the military usage, it's a very specific go in, destroy, continue through your mission and your operatives. With the way Krav Maga is taught in the States, it is a civilian version utilizing militaristic training methods. So the civilian version is going to allow people to come in that have maybe zero aggression and need to learn how to channel that and bring it out of themselves when the time calls for it in order to protect yourself. Maybe some people come in and have maybe too much aggression and need to learn how to channel it and figure out a way to be in control in those situations and not go off the handle and fly off the handle. So it literally allows people of different levels of all of those and in between to come in and be able to train side by side, because it's a universal approach to self-defense. And because it's a militaristic training program, it is a no nonsense program. Like, you know, I say no nonsense in the most respectful way. I'm a Taekwondo guy for 30 years. I've been doing it forever. I love it. It has massive benefits. With regards to a realistic application of those methods and techniques, it fails massively with regards to what happens in the real world and on the streets. There's a lot of things that are too dynamic in this situation of self-defense that you can't predict, and you have to have some availability and understanding of adapting in the moment. And if you're training too traditionally, it's very 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4, as opposed to, okay, well, sometimes you got to go from step 1 to step 9 because they did something that you weren't expecting. Well, you can't just say, hold on a second, I wasn't expecting that. Or, oh, hold on a second, they were holding it this way, they weren't holding it. I mean, you have to understand how the dynamics of a real situation are going to happen, and also understand the real world is rough, man. Like, concrete hurts, cars are there, there's all kinds of things, glass, debris. You have to understand how to navigate in a real situation. You don't really want to be rolling around on the ground respectfully in a self-defense situation. And what if there's a second person or a third person? A lot of the traditional martial arts don't take into account that the dynamics of the situation could change very rapidly. And you have to be able to adapt, and mindset is going to matter most when it comes to that self-defense altercation.
So, but before you go much further, think about, I mean, like, damn, you just smacked me good, because and I remember, I'm trying to put this in context of life and business and career, and, you know, for our audience, because, you know, I'm hoping that they're looking at how it relates to them, but, you know, you got to control yourself in so many different environments in life, and you got the boss yelling at you and banging on you and, you know, smacking you around, and you got the recruiter who's saying no, 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 and so and then you got your child or your grandchild or your wife or your girlfriend or that other girlfriend that I don't talk about, that may be coming at you from a different perspective. Maybe so you got horror and pain and ugly, and I'm being broad here and bigger, and you got love and sympathy and caring, and all that's coming at you at once. Pretty tough to deal with in life.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
And what at the heart of Krav is an understanding and a respect that the world is essentially controlled chaos. And so the idea of controlled chaos, now translate that to what you were just speaking of, Teddy. So now you take the business world. The business world, especially in today's ever-changing environment with, you know, we've got turnover of employees, we've got AI taking over certain parts, we've got all these new things that are happening, and that's not a judgment on good or bad of any of those things happening, but we're expected to absorb more and more on a day-to-day basis and a week-to-week basis. How do we keep our cool, and how do we keep our focus within that chaos that surrounds us? Krav Maga, it's at its basis, understands that self-defense is chaos. It really is. We talk about it all the time. There's a drill that we do towards the end of classes, and we call it a stressor drill, just a nice little label for it. And literally what it does is we take away one of your senses. So maybe you close your eyes and then you get attacked. You know it's coming because you're in a class, a safe environment. You know the people that are in the room. So you have certain psychological safety that's happening there. But when the attack happens, if you have your eyes closed, you can't sense the person necessarily. So you feel that shock of the attack. That chaos that happens during that drill, one of the things that we train very, very adamantly with our students is no matter what happens, if you turn around and forget everything you just learned, which can happen, your mind can go blank, right? We've all had that in stressful situations. So if you turn around and you go blank, do something. Figure it out, make it work. Because in the real world, when life hits you hard and it's unexpected, that's what you got to do. You can't just go, oh man, things didn't go exactly as the plan, so better just give up. Better just stop that job search. Better just stop that project. Oh, well, we missed that one goal. Okay, well, that's it. That's not the way life works, right? We have to learn to make it work with what life hands us. Yeah. And sometimes, you know, especially during we have testing for our Krav Maga students. During testing, sometimes the attacker, the person who is attacking the person, they do it in a different way. So their hands aren't exactly the same way. They move in a different way than this person has practiced. Well, guess what? Everybody else out in the whole world's going to do the same thing. So make it work. Don't stop and go, oh, well, he or she did it wrong.
They attacked me wrong.
that turning of the tables of, you know, they did it wrong. And think about how that translates that again back into the business world. Instead of saying, wait a second, that person did this, they caused my problems, go, okay, let's figure out what we can learn together and how we can rise together. That's back to that armored mindset.
What can I do?
Yeah, I got
Stuff.
it. Yeah. So, Julie, Randy doesn't pay attention to Q&A. He's that way. So I'm gonna grab your Q&A and share that and see if Connie and Travis wants to speak to it. Armored mindset sounds closely related to mindfulness. Do you incorporate mindfulness into your programs?
Mindfulness is something that is an offshoot of what we would do. So to answer that question, you can't be in a day-to-day self-defense training situation, like on the training floor. We can tell you to be mindful of other people, aware of other people. We talk about awareness quite a bit. There are elements of mindfulness. Really, the idea of adding the additional skill set, though, makes you more mindful in the outside world when you don't have the chaos coming at you. So it kind of builds together. I don't know if Travis wants to add to that, or if that kind of made sense to everybody. It made sense in my brain. Sometimes my brain doesn't match with everybody else's, though.
Here's how I would add to that, Connie, if I may. I started the conversation around fight or flight, and Travis threw in freeze. And I get it, you can't totally freeze in life, but there is a moment where you can stop.
Yes.
It's not freeze, but it is where you stop and you be mindful of that other person and their needs. You be mindful of the environment, be mindful of what is this all about and why is this happening? That's my mind. That's where I would freeze and be mindful and try to figure it out before I make that decision of fight or flight.
I would kind of consider that a pause necessarily more than a freeze.
Yeah. I'm trying to use an app.
Right. Yeah. Well, the idea in my mind, being specific about that with regards to your own mindset kind of matters, because understanding that taking a pause is not the same as quitting.
Yeah.
Taking a pause is not the same as freezing. Taking a rest is not the same as stopping.
Yeah.
So, in certain situations, the idea of taking a pause and figuring out the situation before you make that decision absolutely makes sense. Part of the Arbor mindset, like Connie was saying, in my opinion too, is the idea of going into those realms with that as the possibility to begin with. Sometimes you will have a chance to take a pause and make that decision. Sometimes you won't have a chance to take the time to do it. So sometimes you have to be very decisive and in the moment, and sometimes you can take a pause and say, okay, maybe this is not the best response. Maybe my best thought is to go out and leave. Maybe my best response is, I don't know. Maybe that's not quite as much of a problem as I thought it was going to be. Let me take a different perspective. So sometimes it is, related. And a lot of times you can't make that pause. So it just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the concepts that we talk about a lot in class is the idea, one of the base ideas is give yourself space whenever possible. And to me, that relates to what both of you are talking about right now. And that space sometimes in self-defense can come by hitting somebody else. But in real world, and when someone's not attacking you in a real world self-defense situation, that space can simply be giving yourself mental space, giving yourself space to process a little bit different. We talk about an overarching formula, we kind of call it. And it's the idea that space gives you time and time gives you options. And the world, when you feel like there are options available to you, gets a lot more easy to navigate. When you feel like you're trapped and cornered and you have to do this, that doesn't feel really good to most folks. But if you give yourself a little space, that buys you even a smidgen of time for the pause that you're talking about, Teddy. Now you feel like you have a couple options and you've made a considered decision.
Yep.
Go ahead, Randy. I
was going to say some years back, I watched a video presentation where the speaker talked about margins in your life, whether it's you talked about somebody cut you off in traffic or something like that, and you get mad. If you or you're sitting in traffic and you're starting to get upset, what if you were to have left 10 minutes earlier? Same thing with finances. So many live paycheck to paycheck. They're under constant stress. Oh no, I may lose my job. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose this, that, and the other. But whether it's finances, money, whether it's space, whether it's time, those margins allow us latitude, I suppose, for lack of a better way, and some comfort that builds in those cushions so that when the poop hits the fan, I'm not in that fight or flight sympathetic mode.
Absolutely.
I'm in the parasympathetic mode. Teddy, remember that from before?
I remember, I can't remember who it was though, but
Melissa Hughes will be our next week's guest. And actually, we're going to tease about that at the end of the show today, but she's all about the brain and how it processes stress. And so this is a great lead into that and a follow up to you guys. So this is awesome. It's good stuff.
Very well together.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah. You can lean in too, if you don't mind, Travis, to make sure we can hear you.
Yeah. I keep kind of standing back, I guess. I was saying they kind of correlate together very well.
They do.
Coincide, and understanding how the mental processes that stress will definitely help you in the physical realm and vice versa too. So
yes.
I participated in raising 4 daughters, and after I got done doing the best I could possibly do, I learned this, which in the context of the pause that we're discussing, and that is respond is way better than react. And the way you respond is you find space to get time to think about it, and then you can respond. React, that's failure, Teddy.
Yeah,
so,
correct.
Yep.
And let's talk about this. Is it, how do you train, and is it too early or could it be too late to start training to build an armored mindset, either through Krav Maga or other ideas. What do you think?
The best thing is if you're willing to make changes in your life, mentally and physically, there really is no perfect age to start or terrible age to start. What's the owner, the KFC guy that started KFC at 63 years old?
Yes.
Who was
Colonel
one of the
Sanders.
actors? Yeah, Colonel Sanders. Thank you. One of the actors didn't start acting until he was in his mid 40s, late 50s, and he was this huge star. Morgan Freeman, I think, was, one of those that started. Harrison Ford started real late.
There's no better time to start.
Right. Than right now. I mean, there's really no time that's going to be perfect in your life. Just like having kids, get ready for it. Good luck. Right. There's really no perfect time. You just have to make the decision to make the change.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you allow yourself the ability to come in and learn and grow and get better, and understanding that there's going to be challenges. It's not always going to be easy. Understanding that 1,000 failures mean you get to one success. Fantastic. I got through all the no's. Now I'm at the yes. Understanding that can really be beneficial, that it's not always going to go the way you want it to, but it can if you continue working through the process and understanding that you have the skills to do it.
Now, in terms of self-defense training specifically, in terms of the type of self-defense training that we do, I should say, there are programs that are more martial arts oriented that are great for super young children. You've got 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds doing things, and they are adorable, and they're teeny tiny geese. Let me just point out, they're just so cute. You just want to pick them up and put them on a shelf somewhere. But when it comes to
You
the type
said
of
that before Travis got a chance to, right?
Yes. One of the things that we talk about in terms of learning this type of self-defense and being conscious of the changes and what you're doing and making decisions, it's about age 7 that children have that brain development usually. And we're talking about, big, broad scope here, but around age 7 is where they can begin to really understand the consequences of their actions and what that means. So training something that's more applicable to real world, you might want to choose different things before that age for them. So if they're, up to about six years old, yes, teach them how to be more mindful, teach them how to make better decisions, do all that stuff that you're doing as a good parent, get them in good other environments. Around age 7, though, is where you can start to expose them to things where now when the world comes at them, and let me tell you, bullying is an all-time high with youth right now. It's coming at them. They can't escape it. It's all, it's in their social media and their phones and everything like that. So, it's one of those things where they need to have that as early as possible. But, like Travis said earlier, we've got folks training with us into their 80s. So there's no better time.
And the physicality of it, it's something that can also be modified and adjusted for those that are coming in. Like I was saying with the lady that's turned 81 this week, she's clearly not doing full body push-ups and burpees and all this craziness. She does what she can do physically and gets better from there. We have people that come in that are in fantastic shape, that have been runners, they've been bodybuilders, they've been whatever the case may be, athletes their whole lives. They come in and they get into a physical shape that's even better than what they were in. We've got people that come in that haven't trained in years or never trained before in their entire lives. They come in and they get better. So there's really no physical fitness level that you need to be at either, because it's something that, again, it's a developmental system. We don't expect you to come in being Arnold and looking jacked and ready to go. We expect that you're going to come in and have to get better from where you are. And even if you are in great shape, great, this is something new for you. It's going to be difficult. You're not going to pick it up right away like anything else. So it's one of those things where anybody can come in of any age, low level as far as understanding, making sure they're making the good decisions, like Connie was saying, 7, 8, that kind of age. But then as physicality goes, you can be in basically any physical shape.
We've got folks that are training with us that have hip replacements, knee replacements. We work around that. What we ask people when they come in, and this is something where we take the overarching idea of, we're asking people what their physical limitations are, simply so that we understand and can work with them on the floor. Think about what happens when you actually connect with your teams in that way. You say to them, where are the things that we can work on? What are some things that you feel are holding you back within your role or your ability to do things? So there's lots of things that we can translate over to the business world. In our world on the floor, though, we talk a lot about physical things. We had a great example of somebody who came in, had a completely frozen shoulder, couldn't do a whole lot, started with wall push-ups, went down to modified, from modified, now doing full body push-ups and such. Incrementally, though, over time. So that's giving yourself the time to be able to build into those things. So there is no ideal physical fitness level at all.
So then there's no minimum threshold of it, really anything. They could be a total couch potato.
Yes,
But if they have the want to, you can show them the how to.
Correct.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. It's similar, actually, Teddy, a little bit with the job hunt.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll take people that have interest in wanting to be in a professional environment. They have the want to. They've never really been exposed to the how to, whether it's any number of communication skills, you name it. But you know what? You can't teach the want to. You can teach the how to, and they've got to have the want to inside them. And whether it's what you do or what I do, what Teddy does, that's a quality that is unfortunately sometimes a little scarce.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's,
people want stuff given to them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Just
Yeah,
give me stuff. Where's what pill can I take? What video
Yep.
can I watch?
Mhm.
You know,
what do
What's
I
the-
need to
what's
do
the
on
get?
LinkedIn to find a job?
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the
Yeah, there's
easiest
that.
point to get there. And people, you also understand in this class too, it's not about the easy route. You got to put in the work. And I think that's something that a lot
Yeah.
of people have forgotten, you know, because we live in such an age of information and you can ask Google a question and get the answer instantaneously versus actually having to think about it or go research it or go, you know, actually do something, go see an expert or whatever the case may be. We've gotten so used to just that instant gratification, and it's very easy to get complacent in your own development and understanding that I need to put in the work in order to get better. It's not going to magically happen. There's no limitless pill that's just going to make me better.
And nothing is going to grow my hair back either. I have
I'm
a
getting there,
feeling.
man. Don't worry. I'm coming right with you.
Yeah, we see the same barber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So spend a few minutes and give me. I'd like to hear from both of you, if I may. Give me our audience one or two really meaningful points that they heard nothing else that you guys shared with us. Drop something on them that'll sear them into thinking about what is Armored Mindset all about and how it can change their lives.
I mean, there's no pressure with the word seer
I know.
attached to the idea there, Teddy. I mean,
Burn it into your brain.
When I said it, I knew I
no
said it.
pressure. The bar's not high at all on what you're about to say, just off the cuff. I mean, no.
Better not be terrible.
Just remember, they're going to remember this. I would think if you heard nothing else, so let's say they tuned in right now, they didn't hear the rest of the discussion. I would think that one of the core things that we would want them to walk away from this is the idea of try to set your mindset and interrupt your own thought processes when you want to give up. Instead of giving up, look for the next step. That doesn't mean you don't make a different choice. It means that you make a considered choice to leave something and move to something else if that happens to be. So that idea of moving forward always trying to have, I know in corporations, we talk about continuous process improvement. Ooh, that sounds very, very fancy. But truly you can apply that to yourself also. And those are some of the core belief sets. So find opportunities for that in both your business life and your home life. So that would be I hope that's seared into someone's brain, the key takeaway.
And before we hear from Travis, I'll share with, and Connie may know this, there's a dude, Seth Godin is his name. And Seth Godin says, never quit when it's tough. Quit when you've made a deliberate decision that this is not the thing for you to do.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think if nothing else, a lot of stuff I've been listening to recently and understanding, you can only control your effort. You can't control anything else that's going on in the world. In a lot of cases, there's only certain things you can control, certain things you cannot. But one of the main things that's going to control you is your effort. And you are either going to hold you back or you are going to push you forward. You can't rely on motivation from other people. You can't rely on motivation from your friends or your family or anything like that. You have to want to get better and you have to put in the effort. And you're the only one that can control it. You can't be forced into effort. You can't be forced into being the best employee or the best business owner or the best whatever that you're trying to do. You have to want to be there and you got to put in the effort to get it.
Well, and I think that comes back to, Travis makes a fantastic point. It comes back to where Randy kind of started us. It's know your why. If you know your why behind any type of decision, if it's something of weight and importance, now, if we're talking about picking dinner for tonight, that's a different situation. Okay. We can talk about why it gets so muddled between folks and such, but knowing your why in the big decisions in life really makes sense to understand exactly what Travis is talking about. It gives you that internal piece that when other people are perhaps saying something negative, or you have another opportunity to do something different, you go, wait a second, what was my North Star on this particular pathway that I'm on right now? Where am I headed? And that's why that incremental goal setting and everything we've talked about is so important across every area of your life, every single area.
What's that Nietzsche saying? He who has a strong enough why can bear any how.
Yep.
You know, if you know why you want to get there, you can go through any tribulation and trial that you have to in order to get there.
Yep.
But you got to put in the effort.
Yeah, good.
And if somebody wants to contact you, I see Teddy's put contact information in the chat area.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
And
you can
Dean,
reach out.
hang on, Dean, they're not in California yet. But just hang on, you never know where this duo is going to take this business. So, Connie, Travis, thank you very much for
Thank you.
joining us. Really appreciate both of you. Randy, do you have any thoughts, comments?
Yeah,
or
I do. Actually, I've got a couple of cliches I'm going to just throw out there for you, as I'm
Please.
sure
been waiting to use
nobody's.
cliches all month long.
I can't even spell cliche, but I use them. So you talked about control, and there are two things you can control: your time and your attitude. You talk about
Mhm.
activity. So I guess activity is an offshoot of your time.
Yes.
But you can't control necessarily whether somebody's going to come up and want to punch you or going to want to berate you or whatever. So what I'm hearing is it's how we process that and how we allow that to manifest itself in how we respond. So there's
Correct.
that.
Correct.
Another cliche. I had an old boss, or I should say a former boss. He wasn't old. This was years ago, Teddy. But he talked about the two biggest motivators in life. At least somebody told him this, so I passed it along. And it's the fear of loss or the expectation of gain.
Mhm.
And fear of loss of health, your life, your job, your marriage, your money. And when the want to, again, the fear gets strong enough, we'll act on it. Or the expectation of gain. You know, I'd like to get a raise. Teddy, I've been banging on him for 3 years about it. He's, but I have that hope, the expectation of gain. So I will do most anything to get an extra dollar here and there. Teddy, are you listening? And so all that said, great stuff. Often we're limited between our ears. That's what
Absolutely.
holds us back. And whether it's the old no pain, no gain, or you hear all that junk. And
Oh, yeah.
you got to listen to your body. I mean, obviously you have limitations on that, but understanding that it's a lot of time up here is what's limiting us in our careers and health and so forth. So good stuff. I appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your background and your passions. And Connie, it's good to see you again. It's been a long time. It really has. So Travis, good to meet you.
It has
So
been a long
Randy-
time. It's good to see you
Yep.
too.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having us.
Before we hang tight, Connie and Travis, if you like, Randy, before I do the ad spot, who's our speaker next week?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is an excellent follow-up. We're going to have Melissa Hughes back on, PhD down in Florida. She is a former elementary school teacher who has had almost a lifelong passion for understanding how the brain works. She's been on times in the past talking about different imposter syndrome and just things, how the brain is processing things. So we're going to talk about the secrets to genius.
Ooh.
From ordinary to extraordinary.
Mhm.
So it's a good follow-up to what you guys talked about. A lot of this stuff is up here. And if we can understand how this works, we can allow that to play out better in our lives. So we'll look forward to that. That'll be the last show of the month, June 28th. And it'll be 11:55 Eastern time, Teddy. That's going to be a good one.
Again,
Yep.
Connie, Travis, appreciate both of you showing up today.
Thank
Also
you.
appreciate Blackwell Captive Solutions for being our sponsor. And anyway, blackwellcaptive.com is their website. They're all about helping businesses who are self-insured with their business health insurance, their employees manage that to the best of their ability. Look forward to seeing everybody again, 11:55 a.m. Next week with Melissa Hughes. Another fantastic show. Connie, Travis, you guys take care. Thank you to our guests, our audience for being here.
Mhm.
And Randy, go forth and make people happy, dude.
Lunch is on you, Teddy. Take care. Have a good one. See you guys. All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.